Hello, Jimmy OK Boomer here. Welcome to this week's vlog. This week we're going to be talking about education, specifically the education of children, K through 12, the so-called K through 12, kindergarten through 12th grade. I think I should actually say lack of education or just no education. In fact, I read an article the other day. I think the city is Baltimore, some city where the parents are suing the city over the poor quality of education that their kids are getting. One kid, this is above K through, no, this is K through 12, yeah, graduating. One kid graduated high school not being able to read. But most of the kids, or half of the kids in this city, have a 1.0 grade average, which to me is simply, as I said, that's not poor education, that's no education. What they are getting, though, is a lot of education or a lot of instruction about critical race theory and sexual orientation. I mean, well, if you're of my age, you're probably shocked already. I mean, in our day, my day, when I was a kid, we learned reading, writing, and arithmetic, and about culture, there was nothing about cultural appropriation or colonialism. We would just have a social studies class and just learn what other countries are like. I remember we all had pen pals. One class said, let's get a pen pal of, I was writing to some girl in Peru, I think, a little girl in Peru. I was a little boy and then just wrote. You understand what I'm talking about? None of this woke nonsense, but this woke nonsense has invaded the schools, and the children are just, that's what they're being taught about, and they're not learning the basic skills that will get them jobs when they grow up. To be able to read or write, or never mind that, just being able to read a contract or go into a supermarket and be able to tell what's in the cans by reading the label instead of just looking at the pictures. There are probably some people right now that go into a supermarket and can't, if there's no picture on the package, they have no idea what is in the package. It's really sad. Anyways, we'll be working off an article. Well, here's the article. I'm going to put it right up. It's from the Federalist. I always link to these articles, by the way, and as always, I urge you to read the whole article. But this is what I'm drawing on today. Here's the headline: COVID brought cameras into the classroom. Now parents should demand schools keep them on. Now, this is going back to a subject. I discussed this some time ago in an earlier video well, we'll get to let's just get right into this article, dive in for a second, just a little bit from it. Here's the beginning. Each day brings fresh examples of those interacting with young children hell-bent on sexualizing them, be they kindergarten teachers who think it is their sacred right to talk about their private lives in the classroom, Disney executives who insinuate sexual content into entertainment, or child porn purveyors viewed as victims and receiving light sentences. This would be Ketanji Jackson, the Supreme Court nominee, but that's another vlog for another day. And why waste time anyway? She's going to be confirmed to the court. But getting back to education, it is this grotesque state of affairs that I just listed that led Florida Governor Ron DeSantis to sign the Parental Rights Education Act into law. What is that? Well, it's just what it says. Parental Rights Education Act. It just means that you have what right are we talking about? We're talking about the right of parents to, never mind determining what their kids are being taught, but determining, well, just knowing what they're being taught. That's what this really is, the Parental Rights Education Act into law. This arises from coronavirus. I have to say something nice about coronavirus, believe it or not. Not the disease itself, not the virus itself, but one effect of the virus, which was, and it's talk about the classic meme of being hoisted by one's own petard. That's what happened to these teachers. These teachers' unions, these liberal teachers, they refused to teach. They refused to go into the classroom and insisted on these Zoom classes where the kids would attend class from home with their parents. This was the petard, being the parents being right there and seeing for the first time what their kids were being taught. And when they saw what they were being taught, they were shocked. They were a little bit shocked of what they were being taught. And then you had these parents going to these I don't think my parents ever went to a PTA meeting, maybe one when I was a child growing up, but now you see these parents just showing up and not only demanding changes, but running themselves for positions on the school board and winning and ousting these woke liberal education so-called experts. And let's talk about that for a second too, because there's this idea, well, what is a public school? There's this idea that it's to turn education over to, quote, experts. In other words, parents are incapable of educating their own kids, and you really need a professional to educate them. We have all these homeschooled kids who do even better than public school kids, and it just shows that if a parent has the time and the inclination, parents are perfectly capable of educating their children, and they are therefore perfectly capable of supervising the teachers, the public school teachers who are educating their kids, and deciding what they want them to be taught, and whether sexuality, that's something for parents to teach. It's not for the schools, and it takes time away from reading, writing, and arithmetic, which is why we have all these dumb kids. That's basically it. And then we have to dumb down college and just dumb down everything for these people who don't have basic skills. Employers are saying that they have trouble hiring people because they often can't find people who can do simple math or write a simple, cohesive paragraph. So that's you can see it's a problem, and that's why Governor DeSantis signed this bill to say that, well, you can't teach that garbage, that woke nonsense. You have to teach the basics. But the problem is, how do you know if the teachers are complying? And that is a real problem, because let's go back to the coronavirus when the cameras were first introduced, which is another tangent I have to go off on now, because this is kind of a response to a commenter for a vlog that I did some time ago, who said, well, you can't put cameras in classrooms. It's not legal. Well, it is legal. They were in the classrooms during coronavirus for these Zoom classes, number one. Number two, we have body cams on police officers so we can have transparency about what the police officers are doing, and it settles questions, legal disputes about who did what and whether the use of force, for example, was justified or not. The public education is just that. It's public. We have a right to know what teachers are teaching just as much as we have a right to know what police officers are doing, or what judges are doing, for that matter, in courtrooms. Now we have cameras in courtrooms. We don't have it in the Supreme Court yet, but we do have audio, so you can at least hear what is happening, and that could be enough just to hear what the teachers are teaching. You don't necessarily have to see, but sometimes you do, because they have bulletin boards and they hold up exhibits and things. But this is the problem that, this is from the coronavirus when they started putting these cameras in. And here's, I'm going to read from the article now. A Philadelphia educator tweeted his concern that parents listening in on virtual classroom instruction could cramp his ability to talk about race and sex with, quote, his, unquote, children. And that's an important point to make. Also, they think these educators, these woke teachers, they think that these kids are their kids. They're not. They're your kids. If you're the parent of a school-age child, the child belongs to the parent. It is not the educator's kids, but they think they are. So I'm going to quote this Philadelphia educator. Quote, "So this fall, virtual class discussion will have many potential spectators, parents, siblings, etc. in the same room. We'll never be quite sure who is overhearing the discourse. What does this do for our equity/inclusion work? I am most intrigued by the damage that, quote, helicopter, or internal quote, helicopter/snowplow, and internal quote, parents can do in honest conversations about gender/sexuality, unquote. While conservative parents are my chief concern, I know that damage can come from the left too," which is another point to make, because this Parental Rights Education Act in Florida has support from liberals too. It's just natural that if you're a parent, you want to know when your kid is sitting in a school, maybe spending more time, these teachers may be spending more time with your kids than you are yourself. You want to know what these teachers are teaching, or whether they're teaching anything at all, which seems to be the case a lot. But, well, here, his worry was well-founded, this educator. During COVID, as virtual classrooms broadcasted into homes across the country, parents had unprecedented Zoom access to their kids' instruction, and in many cases, they were shocked by what they observed. Energizing them to speak up in school board meetings about abuses. This infamously led the Biden administration to label such parents as, quote, domestic terrorists, unquote. So you see the problem. Again, you have the government, you have this terrible president. Don't get me started. That's another hour for today if I get started on Joe Biden. But calling parents, calling them domestic terrorists because they want to have a say in what their kids are taught and how they're taught. But this is why we need the camera. Well, the reason we need the cameras is, getting back to this question, how can parents help ensure their kids are not indoctrinated in woke leftism? And the reason we need the cameras is, well, you'll see why in this video. This is from TikTok, and it's on, I got it off of Twitter. But here's a Florida teacher bragging that she will disobey the Florida law. In other words, DeSantis signed this bill, and this teacher is saying right out that she's not going to follow the law. She's going to break the law. She's going to fill their head with whatever she wants to. Here's the video right here. Just watch the video.
I just want to go ahead and state that I would rather lose my job than out one of my students to their families. Being a safe person and a safe place for kids that don't have that at home is one of the best parts of being a teacher. So yeah, I'm not doing it. I don't know. Fire me, sue me, take me to jail. I'm not doing it.
Welcome back. And you just saw the problem, because that is only one teacher. There are teachers across the country that are saying that they're not going to stop teaching critical race theory. I read another article, I don't remember where I read it the other day, but about teachers changing the name from critical race theory, calling it something else, some kind of social something or other, so that they can keep teaching the very same thing.
We're just learning how to worm around all of those weird things that are out there.
Change the label, same stuff. And I thought it was kind of brilliant.
At the end of the day, if the teacher was doing that, they could still close the door and do it now, couldn't they?
Exactly.
So that dumb new law doesn't mess with you guys?
Not yet. No. Emotional learning. We can't say that here anymore. It's mental health.
Oh, sorry.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
No, we did have a big...
They already came for it.
We already had a big blow up with that.
So we still do, we just call it mental health.
So it's just, our mental health curriculum.
Okay.
Who's against mental health curriculum? Not me.
Okay. Nope. If you are, then that really is a real issue.
Then you need mental health curriculum.
Yes, you do. Yeah. So we're trying to make that transition to,
That's probably a bad word to mention here too.
It's all mental health.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just all the different words you have to use. And of course we don't do we don't. So, yeah.
Yeah.
We're just learning how to worm around all of those weird things that are out there.
I just went to a superintendent's meeting last week, and the district was intentional to switch out social emotional learning to behavior adaptations.
Like they just changed the name?
Changed the label, same stuff. And I thought, it's kind of a bummer they have to do that, but on the same hand, it's kind of brilliant.
Heck yeah!
Because they don't care about this, even though it's the same as this, but it's the label. So I thought it was brilliant on their part.
It is brilliant.
So
Why can't we just do that with stuff like critical race theory?
I agree.
Right.
We should be able to teach the tenets kind of maybe associated with that, but under the guise of equity or something else. Can we do that?
Yes, and we have we started part of our strategic plan deals with equity.
Good.
And we have one of our supervisors is world studies, social studies, and equity.
Just as now they view anything bad as critical race theory, I'm glad that the equity term doesn't seem to have spread amongst that crowd yet.
Yeah, I hope not. We're looking at saying, do we match up with what we preach? Because there could be things out there that, like, either certain books or things that actually are not inclusive.
And I bet the idiot MAGA crowd just ignores it because it doesn't have the critical race theory name on it, right?
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so.
Yeah.
There are some really great free history resources out there.
Right.
Because we like the 1619 project.
That is one that right now we're not using.
Really?
Because
Yeah,
of
banned it.
there's just a lot of pushback on that, and so we've had to say
Can y'all
right now we
use
can't.
other sources that have the same concepts but not
Don't have that name?
we do,
Right.
and so like we have access to the company is called Newzella.
Our lieutenant governor, who did a big search for CRT everywhere,
And
found zero.
yeah.
I mean that.
Don't tell her about Newzella.
Yeah,
Right.
I'll just tell her about the adopted stuff. Not all of the extra.
Did it maybe happen in a classroom with curriculum? Probably, I mean, I don't know.
But at the end of the day, if the teacher was doing that, they could still close the door and do it now, couldn't they?
Exactly, right. And that's kind of what I mean is it's not anything that was ever in the curriculum.
Yeah.
But did it happen? I don't know, maybe, yeah, I don't know.
Some of our veteran teachers secure enough to continue those kinds of conversations because they know how to navigate all of that. I think some of our newer ones probably are shying away from it right now.
But the ones who've been here longer are secure. They're like, listen, nobody can mess with me, or
That, or they know how to set that conversation up.
So they do get to learn at least the systematic part of the piece.
Right, and I do think right now, and unfortunately, I think it's how comfortable and how long you've been teaching this subject area, how far we go into that.
You see my point. If you are a parent who doesn't want your kid, well, you may want your kids to be taught that. That's fine, but even then, you would still want to know what your kids are being taught. If you want them to be taught critical race theory, then you want to know if they're being taught critical race theory. So you see, whichever way, whatever your political persuasion, whatever your opinion about critical race theory and sexuality and there are a zillion sexes and whatever. It's the point. It's still a valid point. We need cameras, at least audio, but cameras in the classroom. And I would say we need to put the video, the recordings of these classes on the internet so that the parents can see them later if they're not able to watch while their kids are being taught at the time, if both parents work, for instance. So that's what you need. If you're worried about privacy, I think that if it's a public school, it should be available for the entire public because you may want to vote. I don't have any school-aged children, but I may want to vote for or against somebody, a public official, depending on what their views are and what their policies are on the teaching, what's taught and how it's taught. So I would have a right to know now, but if that's really a big problem, then just give the parents a password, the actual parents, and let them be able to see. And then you have complete privacy, but you have the parents knowing what their kids are being taught. I mean, if the parent wants to physically walk into the classroom, the parent should be able to. It's the equivalent of the same thing. So that's it for this week. Thanks as always for stopping by. Really appreciate the time you spend with me. If you have any comments, questions, suggestions for future topics, there's a comment section below the video. You could subscribe. I love getting new subscribers. You could share this video with anyone you think would benefit from it, especially any of your public officials, and especially local officials, and parents of school-age children. And I guess I'll just add to that, I guess the very last thing is that I hope you all come back again. I enjoyed visiting with all of you. I would love to see all of you again. I look forward to seeing all of you again. And until I do see all of you again, bye.